Hello, everyone. Welcome to Get Fit Week 4. Today, I'm here with Dr. Allison Brownlee, and today she's going to tell us a little bit about her business and a little bit about what we can do to be more aware of our mental health and make it a priority in our lives. So just if you could give us a little bit of information about your business, what you do, and who you are.
Yeah. I'm Allison Brownlee. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am the founder and clinical director of Stronger Together Community Services. We are a nonprofit mental health agency in San Diego, and we specialize in offering affordable, accessible therapy for individuals, couples, families, and because we are in the land of hybrid, we can also provide services throughout California.
Awesome, super cool. Well, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your knowledge with our Get Fit participants.
Yeah.
So before we get into our Q&A section, we just have a quick little disclaimer.
Yep. So the conversation that we're having today is for informational purposes only. This is not to be confused with medical or mental health advice for you individually. We'll talk about some ideas and things that could be helpful, but this is not a substitute for psychotherapy.
Great, thank you. So we'll start with our first question today, which is, what are some common mental health challenges people face in today's fast-paced and digitally driven world?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question, and it's a common presenting problem for people when they come in seeking services, that they feel attached to their phones, tablets, laptops. We're sort of in a, if I can see it, I should respond to it mentality. And so people feel consumed, overwhelmed, stressed out about the contact that they have with their digital world. And so what that can do for folks is create an overwhelming sense of attachment to emails, text messages, things like that. We find people feeling less connected to the people that are in the present with them, like friends and family, and then kind of messages that you're not present, you're distracted, I'm not having as good of a time or as enjoyable time with you, which can start to impact our mental health, really. We can feel bad about ourselves, start to feel like it's not okay to connect with others, or just generally feel disconnected and not good in the relationships with our friends and family.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like all of us can say that we've experienced that in one way or another.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're addressing that today, and it's just like relatable.
Totally, yeah. So common, and I think one of the things that we'll talk about today is, just exploring and understanding what's happening without being harsh and critical of ourselves, and knowing that whatever you're experiencing, you're probably not alone in it, that there are many, many people that are struggling with the same challenges. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So our next question is, how can individuals recognize the signs of mental health issues amidst the complexities of modern life?
Yeah, this is a really good question because we are so overstimulated and we're getting information from all sorts of aspects of our life. It can be really challenging to just check in with ourselves and take time and space to understand if what's happening in our bodies or in our minds is a mental health concern, or something like, I'm not drinking enough water, or I'm not getting enough sleep, which could absolutely also be part of mental health diagnoses as well. So we ask people generally just to, throughout the day, just do like a 30-second check-in with how are you feeling with your stress levels? What types of self-talk are you engaging in? Are you being kind to yourself? Are you feeling overwhelmed or hopeless? Again, are you feeling chronic fatigue? Do you have an increase in symptoms like sadness, crying, lack of sleep that you haven't had previously? And instead of taking that judgmental stance, like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me, really being able to ask, how can I support myself, or how can I ask somebody else to help me?
I love that. That's really helpful. I feel like I can definitely implement that into my own routine.
Yeah.
I feel like I never take just 30 seconds. Like, that's all you need to check in.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we tell people sometimes just even when you're washing your hands in the bathroom, to spend an extra 20 seconds running the cold water over your hands, or just take an extra lap around your space if you can, as you're moving from one space to another. And these are simple practices that nobody else even needs to know that you're doing, but that can be really nutritive for yourself. For those of you that are working at home, being able to just step outside in the sunlight. I know that for myself, I'm in back-to-back meetings, and so even just setting on my phone a little reminder, like, did you breathe? Have you been outside? Have you had any water? Can be really helpful. And again, only I need to know about it.
Yeah, that's like the best part.
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Okay, so going to the next one, how does social media and technology impact mental health, and what steps can be taken to maintain a healthy relationship with them?
Yeah, I think we're more and more as a society, we're understanding that some of our dynamics with social media are detrimental, doom scrolling, things like that. And I know that we have a lot of people in our practice who've instituted like this kind of screen time monitors, and it'll let you know if you've been using more screen time than what you prefer. And one of the things that we suggest is if you've hit the mark where you are at more screen time than you'd like, then take a couple moments and check in with yourself about what you might need. Perhaps you've been scrolling and you've seen a lot of really horrible news or images that are disturbing. Maybe you've seen somebody living their best life and you're feeling jealous, or you're feeling like, I need a vacation. You know, just checking in with how you are mentally after you've been on the screen for a while, and then start to think about what might I want to do to support regulating myself, maybe feeling a little more calm, maybe really making an intentional practice of shutting down or moving away from what we were exposed to. Talking to friends and family about that as well can be helpful, so you don't feel so alone, like, oh my gosh, I just saw this terrible thing and now I'm sitting with it all by myself and I feel like overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's nice. Again, bringing in the idea that we don't have to do it alone, to invite other people who also experience similar problems into that space and that issue. Cool. So then, with the rise of remote work and virtual interactions, how can individuals combat feelings of isolation and loneliness?
Yeah. As we've been talking about, some important aspects of our work that we do individually is to really just acknowledge what's happening with compassion, and being able to recognize that we're not alone in it. That even though we're in a digital space where, you know, there's maybe 10 people on a Zoom call, or you're FaceTiming a friend, those digital interactions are not as fulfilling sometimes as in-person communication. And though it's wonderful that we can be connected with somebody from far away, we also might just really need, again, an intentional set-aside time to be with people in person, in real life. And knowing that if you're feeling isolated or lonely in your, Zoom or Teams meetings, like, you're probably not the only one. Another important kind of evaluation question is, as I think about interacting with people physically in person, am I feeling overwhelmed? Does that seem like that's too much? Is that a shift or a change where previously I've been really excited to be in social interactions, but now I'm kind of feeling a little weird about it? Those would be some indicators that perhaps, the isolation or the overwhelm of the digital world are kind of getting to you, and you might need some additional support. Yeah,
I feel like definitely after COVID, all of us kind of experienced that, where it was just very isolating. And then when it changed and we started going back in person, it was almost like I had to learn how to talk to people again.
Totally. Yeah. And then you feel kind of awkward, or, oh my gosh, I feel so bad I didn't connect with you as much in the pandemic as I wanted to. Are you okay? That sort of thing. Like, rekindling friendships in that way, I think is, again, a really common experience that people are having, and even just being able to name that. I haven't seen you in person for so long. I've missed you. Being able to just normalize that that's what's happening, not like judging ourselves that we haven't been as connected as we prefer.
Okay, and what advice do you have for balancing the demands of work, personal life, and self-care to protect mental well-being?
Yeah, one of the practices that we often will share with clients is looking at a kind of wheel of your life. If you think about drawing a circle and creating wedges for where you're spending your time and energy. So if you're looking at your wheel and you've got 50% of that at work and 10% of that taking time for you, and then another big chunk just taking your kids to sports or just driving them around. I know for a lot of parents and caregivers, that is a big component of their lives that they don't even put on the wheel.
Yeah.
That, like being in the car, driving your kids around takes up a lot of time. And so what we would generally say is look at the wedges in your wheel and think about how you might want to shift or change those. And again, talk to a friend, a colleague at work, or if you're feeling like it's really overwhelming to make changes, find a therapist. We definitely understand that it's hard to implement changes on your own, and sometimes you just need a neutral third party to say, like, gosh, it really sounds like we are spending a lot of time at soccer.
Yeah.
Do we have somebody else that could, take your kids to soccer or something like that, where you don't have to navigate the changes by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in what ways can,
because it really speaks to the individual aspect of mental health and wellness. Many of us grew up in homes where there was some discussion about, is it okay to have feelings? Is it okay to express them? Or getting the message that it's absolutely not okay to even have a conversation about feelings. So we encourage individuals to think about diversity, equity, inclusion in terms of their family systems, but also the culture in which you grew up and how acceptable or stigmatized mental health was, and how that shows up in your relationship to introspection, checking in with yourself, asking even just a friend for help, and then taking the big leap to seeing a therapist or getting outside help. And sometimes we find it helpful just to share with somebody, like, I'm really nervous about getting help. And then somebody else can say, like, yeah, I was really nervous too, and I found this great therapist, or I found this great exercise practice, or this or that really helped me. And then, again, you're not doing it alone.
Nice. So then, what strategies or coping mechanisms do you recommend for managing stress and anxiety in the current societal landscape?
Yeah. We generally like to think about, again, like I said, everybody in an individualized framework. So considering for yourself, if you want to figure out what the best way to cope or manage your stress is, to identify what's at the root of the stress. If it's isolation or loneliness, that may be calling a friend or family member, asking them to hang out and spend time with you. If you're feeling quite anxious, you might need to do some breathing or grounding practices. We have many of those available at Stronger Together. If people want to direct message us, we're happy to send resources or ideas or suggestions. And then if you're noticing that your mental health is really suffering in a way that feels overwhelming, that helpless, that hopelessness, it might be time to talk to a therapist. That might be the best coping mechanism to be able to get that outside support. Support groups themselves are also helpful. But generally, we want to just help people to figure out what exactly is going on and then what would be the best coping mechanism.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the times I think that I don't take the time, like those 30 seconds, to kind of check in with myself. And so sometimes I think I have these problems and I'm not addressing what the actual root is because I'm not taking the time to figure it out. Sometimes something that you mentioned was that I didn't even realize that I might be doing myself is sometimes thinking that it's health related or like physically related, and then it's actually mentally related.
And that's really common. When I talk to people about the relationship between their mind and their body, we get a lot of physical symptoms first, and then we tend to those with a physical response, and sometimes that just doesn't quite do it. It doesn't quite meet the need. Well, please drink water, really important. But also, if you're noticing that you're really just even unable to find time to drink water, that's the bigger issue, is that, we're not giving ourselves the time and space to take care of ourselves. Chronic pain, fatigue, headaches. Oftentimes people will come in saying, like, I have chronic migraines, and when we start to parse out what's happening in their lives, we determine that they're actually stress headaches. and that they're not really a medical issue. Now,
Yeah.
again, this isn't medical advice, so check with your doctor, but decreasing your stress, increasing coping strategies can start to mitigate some of those physical health issues.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and then last question, what resources or support networks are available for individuals seeking help with mental health concerns in today's society, and how can they access them effectively?
Yeah. San Diego is great. We have a variety of mental health organizations, agencies, private practices. We have a lot of resources here. It can almost be overwhelming to think about how I would find somebody that really connects with me or who's a good fit.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for us to, again, figure out what's going on. What kind of help do we need? There are many, many different modalities of therapy, different types of therapists. So considering, am I having a hard time challenging negative thoughts? Do I feel overwhelming sadness? Am I, really reliving something bad that happened to me 10 years ago and it's impacting my sleep or my ability to concentrate or focus? Am I having issues in my relationship? Do I maybe need couple or family therapy? So really just trying to do a little internal investigation about what you might need. And remember that if you contact a mental health provider, they can answer your questions. If you talk to them for 10 or 15 minutes and just say, this is what I think is going on, they should be able to let you know if they're the best fit for you or if there's a different type of therapy that would be most helpful. And so really being able to empower yourself to ask questions and make sure that your therapist is a good fit. If you go to therapy in the first session, you're like, I don't know about that. That wasn't, that's okay. You can let your therapist know, talk to your friends about it. You can change therapists. We really want people to have that empowered sense of that they're in charge of their own mental health in many, many ways. And it's important to just find a therapist that's a good fit for you.
Yeah, I love that you're encouraging people, like, it's okay to change a therapist. It's okay to not stick with one after your first time.
Yeah.
And kind of owning that this is your experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And, a good therapist, if you call them and you say, I'm having an issue in my primary relationship, I want couples therapy, the therapist might say, oh, I actually don't specialize in that. Let me give you some referrals.
Yeah.
Or I've got this insurance, or I need access to this, sort of pay scale. A therapist, if they're not in your network or can't meet that need, they should, again, be able to give you resources. We have so many in San Diego that there is help out there, and you can absolutely find somebody that's a good fit.
Awesome. And I know you talked a little bit about your business in the beginning of the Q&A. Would you mind just plugging Stronger Together and telling our Get Fit participants where they can find you?
Yeah. So we are Stronger Together Community Services. We are physically located in Bay Park, but we have online sessions throughout California. You can find us at strongertogethersd.org. And because we are a nonprofit mental health clinic, we have the ability to provide people with affordable services. We offer quality mental health care that is attuned to your needs. We'll take the time to sit with you and figure out what's going on and really make sure that we are the best fit before we start therapy. Our mission is to get people access to the services that they need throughout San Diego and in some ways California, and really offering mental health care to people that might not otherwise have the ability to access.